Have you ever wondered how many worlds from the 60s slipped through the cracks of time without ever receiving the praise they deserved? In an era shaped by paranoia, atomic fear, and dreams of the future, many films dared to imagine realities too bold for critics to understand. Some faced backlash, while others simply vanished under the weight of bigger studio releases. Today we dig up the forgotten sci-fi gems that hid warnings, truths, and wonders waiting to be rediscovered. Number 12. Beyond the Silver Veil, 1961. Beyond the Silver Veil entered theaters with barely a whisper, as critics dismissed it as another experimental space fantasy that tried too hard. Yet audiences who ventured into the dim auditoriums found a story unlike anything that existed in its decade. The film followed Dr. Rowan Fell, a reclusive physicist who discovered a shimmering membrane drifting above the upper atmosphere. When he crossed it, he entered a duplicate Earth where time slowed and memories crystallized into living forms. This alternate world became both a sanctuary and a trap, as Rowan uncovered versions of people long gone, including his childhood friend who had vanished years earlier. Imagine a film in 1961 daring to suggest that grief can build entire universes. But here's the twist. Rumors spread that the film had angered a group of government researchers who believed its portrayal of parallel world theories was too close to classified experiments. Projectionists claimed that unmarked officials visited theaters and removed reels after only one or two screenings. Critics later dismissed these stories as wild imagination, but collectors insisted that half the original prints simply disappeared. Behind the scenes, the director Lena Harrow fought constant pressure from studio executives who feared the film was too ambitious and too slow for mainstream audiences. Budget cuts forced her to film the veil sequences using handmade reflective sculptures and improvised lighting towers built from abandoned warehouse lamps. Most employees believed the production would collapse at any moment, yet Harrow carried the project with a quiet determination that echoed through every frame. When the movie finally escaped into the world, it received little promotion. Reviewers called it puzzling and overly poetic. But decades later, historians rediscovered fragments of the film in a warehouse in Nevada, sparking a wave of restoration attempts. Now, Beyond the Silver Veil is regarded as a haunting meditation on memory identity and the fragile line between truth and illusion. Its legacy invites one reflection. Some stories vanish not because they fail, but because they reveal more than the world is ready to see. Number 11. The Iron Halo, 1963. The Iron Halo arrived as a mid-level studio release and was marketed as a simple adventure set in a distant solar frontier. Critics treated it as forgettable pulp, yet the film possessed a complexity that the marketing never conveyed. It followed Commander Yara Kale, a former war pilot haunted by visions of metallic rings descending from the sky. When an unknown force activated a strange beacon on a mining colony, Yara uncovered a relic buried beneath the planet's surface, an ancient halo-shaped device capable of rewriting the gravitational laws themselves. Imagine an artifact powerful enough to fold oceans into spirals or lift entire cities into the clouds. The Iron Halo presented these concepts with a surreal beauty rarely attempted in its decade. Yet the film soon faced trouble. Some whispered that its depiction of military exploitation of alien technology struck too close to ongoing political tensions. A few regional theaters even pulled the film, claiming it encouraged distrust in government operations. Behind the scenes, the production was plagued by mishaps. The mechanical rigs built to simulate anti-gravity environments malfunctioned almost daily, forcing the crew to create practical techniques never used before. Actors were suspended by hidden hydraulic plates, and scenes required hours of rehearsal to avoid injury. The studio panicked at rising costs and threatened to shut down filming 3 separate times. When the movie hit theaters, audiences were divided. Some praised its bold imagery, while many critics called it confusing, heavy, and unnecessarily philosophical. Within weeks, it faded from circulation, and no one expected it to leave a mark. But years later, a cult following embraced the film, praising its themes of responsibility, ambition, and the danger of chasing unlimited power. Now the Iron Halo stands as a cautionary relic of 60s sci-fi, urging viewers to question what humanity might sacrifice in its hunger to control the universe. Number 10. Echoes of Titan, 1962. Echoes of Titan entered the 60s cinema landscape as an underfunded space survival film, and critics had little interest in examining it. Released during a year dominated by brighter, louder studio epics, its quiet, tension-driven narrative struggled to attract attention. Yet those who watched it discovered a film carved from dread, mystery, and longing. The story centered on Dr. Alistair Bray, a planetary archaeologist assigned to investigate a series of harmonic tremors on Titan. When he arrived, he realized that the moon's surface sang, not metaphorically, but literally resonating with deep tonal pulses that shifted like a heartbeat. Following these vibrations, Bray uncovered a network of crystalline chambers hidden beneath the ice, each one storing memories of an ancient civilization that communicated through sound rather than language. But here is where the film crossed into dangerous territory. Whispers spread that its portrayal of sonic mind influence was inspired by real research programs that the public was not supposed to know about. Some newspapers even speculated that the studio faced pressure to soften certain plot points. Scenes involving sound-induced hallucinations were removed after test screenings, and early promotional material vanished overnight. Production was no easier. The team built vast reflective sets using sheets of frozen resin that melted under the bright studio lights, causing multiple shutdowns. Sound designers struggled to create the musical rumble of Titan, finally resorting to dragging metal plates across concrete to produce the haunting tones. Several crew members insisted the vibrations felt too real, as if the set itself responded to them. Upon release, Echoes of Titan barely lasted 2 weeks in most regions. Critics wrote it off as overly abstract. Yet over time, the film resurfaced among late-night broadcast archives, and new audiences found its emotional core. A lonely scientist listening to the final message of a long-dead world. A reminder that silence often holds the secrets we refuse to hear. Its legacy endures as a hymn to lost isolation and the haunting possibility that other civilizations may still sing across the void. Number 9. Orbit of the Forgotten, 1964. Orbit of the Forgotten arrived as an unexpected oddity in the mid-60s. Critics dismissed it as a misguided art experiment that lacked commercial appeal. Yet beneath its modest surface lay one of the decade's most ambitious meditations on memory abandonment and the fragile nature of humanity reach into the stars. Audiences who took a chance on the film found themselves immersed in a world where forgotten astronauts drifted through space like ghosts searching for a way back home. The film followed Lieutenant Mara Hensley, a communications officer assigned to track missing exploration pods that mysteriously vanished near the edge of Earth orbit. When Mara intercepted a faint distress signal, she discovered something impossible. The voices of the lost astronauts were being broadcast from a derelict satellite that should not exist. Upon reaching the structure, she found a graveyard of wrecked ships all pulled into a silent orbit around a fragment of an ancient machine that fed on memory itself. Imagine a satellite that devoured human identity, a machine that preserved the minds of every astronaut who strayed too close. The concept terrified many viewers, and whispers spread that the story was inspired by classified space anomalies. Some claimed that government consultants demanded several rewrites that removed any mention of real orbital incidents. A few theaters even refused to screen the film, suggesting that it promoted fear and distrust in aerospace programs. Behind the scenes, the studio struggled to capture the eerie stillness of space on a low budget. Sets were constructed from scrap metal stitched together with reflective paint and improvised cables. Actors performed on harnesses that frequently jammed, leaving them suspended for long, uncomfortable hours. The director insisted on long, quiet takes that executives believed would bore audiences. Tension grew until the team feared the project would collapse entirely. When Orbit of the Forgotten finally reached theaters, it was met with confusion. Critics labeled it ponderous, slow, and directionless. Within a week, it vanished from wide release. But years later, the film returned through underground screenings and midnight broadcasts. Audiences saw it not as a failure, but as a melancholic vision of how easily we erase those who take the greatest risks for humanity. Orbit of the Forgotten leaves viewers with one truth. Even in silence, the memories we abandon continue to circle us, waiting to be acknowledged. Number 8. The Glass Horizon, 1965. The Glass Horizon landed quietly during a year dominated by more popular adventure epics. Critics overlooked it, calling it a fragile piece of speculative fiction that lacked spectacle. Yet those who ventured into its world discovered a hypnotic and unsettling tale about the cost of seeing too much. The film followed Professor Lyra Danton, a meteorologist who discovered an atmospheric phenomenon known as the transparent line, a boundary stretching across the sky like an invisible wall. Lyra soon learned that anyone who crossed this barrier gained the ability to perceive threads of probability branching through reality. These shimmering lines revealed possible futures overlapping like woven fabric. At first, Lyra used her newfound sight to prevent disasters, but she soon realized the power came with a terrible cost. With each choice, she witnessed alternate timelines collapsing into dust, leaving her tormented by guilt for every unrealized path. Imagine a 60s film daring to suggest that every decision destroys a universe. The concept frightened censors who argued it encouraged fatalism and despair. Some regional boards banned the film outright, insisting it blurred moral boundaries. Rumors spread that government advisors feared audiences might interpret the transparent line as an allegory for real atmospheric tests. Promotional posters were quietly pulled from several markets without explanation. Behind the scenes, the production team built innovative visual effects using layered glass panels and refracted light. The transparent line sequences required delicate choreography with actors moving through beams of distorted illumination. Many shots had to be reshot repeatedly because the glass rigs shattered under the heat of studio lamps. Crew members recalled days where the floor became a sea of broken shards, reflecting rainbow patterns like a fractured sky. Despite its beauty, the glass horizon faltered at the box office. Critics claimed it was too slow and too philosophical for mainstream viewers. It disappeared from circulation until film collectors uncovered a surviving print decades later. When restored and screened at a retrospective festival, it stunned modern audiences with its emotional depth and bold ideas. Today, the glass horizon stands as a reminder that vision is both a gift and a burden, and that glimpsing the future may cost more than we can bear. Number 7. Voyagers Wake, 1961. Voyagers Wake entered the 60s with little fanfare, overshadowed by louder, more commercial spacecraft epics. Critics dismissed it as another low-budget experiment, despite its haunting emotional core. Yet the film carried a bold message about lost time and the burden of discovery. It followed Elias Warren, a deep space technician assigned to maintain a lonely listening station drifting beyond the orbit of Mars. One night, Elias intercepted a faint, rhythmic signal. Not a typical transmission, but a pattern identical to his late sister heartbeat. Driven by grief and confusion, he traced the signal to a derelict starship, drifting in the darkness. Inside, he discovered an impossible sight. The ship interior was frozen in time, its crew suspended in mid-motion, as if caught between seconds. At the center lay a crystalline chamber that recorded moments of human life and replayed them endlessly like echoes. Imagine walking through a ship where time had cracked. Scenes of laughter, arguments, and final farewells repeating without end. The concept was too eerie for some viewers, and whispers soon spread that the film touched on themes related to real experiments involving temporal distortion. A few broadcasters refused to air promotional trailers, claiming the imagery was too disturbing for general audiences. Production troubles were relentless. The frozen time effect required actors to hold difficult poses while prosthetic ice layers were applied around them. Cameras overheated under the intense lighting, and several scenes were lost due to melted set pieces. Actors endured long hours in uncomfortable positions, creating tension among the cast. Yet despite the hardship, director Halvin Knox pushed forward, believing the film message would endure. When Voyagers Wake released, theaters gave it minimal screens. Critics found it bleak and overly sentimental. Within weeks, it disappeared from public consciousness. But decades later, space archivists rediscovered fragments of the film and pieced together a near-complete version. Modern audiences praised its profound themes of grief, memory, and the cost of clinging to moments that time has already taken from us. Voyagers Wake lingers like a message drifting through the void, reminding us that some memories refuse to fade no matter how far we travel. Number 6. The Last Meridian, 1966. The Last Meridian arrived during a year filled with dazzling cosmic spectacles. But this quiet, unsettling masterpiece slipped through unnoticed. Critics brushed it aside, calling it too meditative and too ambiguous for mainstream science fiction. Yet beneath its calm surface lived a story of cosmic dread that audiences were not ready to face. The film opened with navigator Cassian Holt, a lone pilot assigned to study strange gravitational pulses detected near the edge of the solar system. Cassian soon discovered a catastrophic truth. The pulses originated from a horizon, shaped fissure in space, a boundary where time itself distorted into loops. He realized the fissure was expanding, and every pulse erased a sliver of history. As he ventured closer, Cassian witnessed people, objects, and entire memories dissolving around him, replaced with unfamiliar versions. His own past fractured, leaving him unsure which life he originally lived. Imagine watching the universe rewrite itself while you remain conscious of every alteration. That terror lay at the heart of The Last Meridian. Rumors soon circulated that government advisors disliked the film portrayal of cosmic instability, fearing it mirrored ongoing research into temporal physics. Some speculated that the studio was pressured to remove a sequence showing a timeline collapsing into white light. Strangely, that scene remains missing from all surviving cuts. Production challenges nearly ended the film multiple times. The crew struggled to depict the expanding fissure using practical techniques. They built rotating reflective walls that bent light in unsettling ways and used pools of dyed water projected against screens to mimic warping time fields. Actors struggled to maintain continuity, as scenes required them to behave as if their personalities were subtly rewritten. Tension grew behind the scenes, and several team members left mid-production overwhelmed by the demands. Upon release, audiences found the film bewildering, and critics declared it too abstract. Within a month, it faded from theaters. But in later years, scholars revisited The Last Meridian and praised its ambition, calling it a lost meditation on identity, causality, and the fragile nature of reality. Its legacy stands as a chilling reminder that history is not as stable as we assume, and that a single fracture can reshape everything we believe to be true. Number 5. Signal of the Deep, 1963. Signal of the Deep entered theaters with modest expectations. Critics assumed it would be another shipbound thriller set against an alien threat. Instead, it delivered a hypnotic psychological descent that audiences were not prepared to interpret. The story followed oceanographer Jalen Muir, who joined an expedition to study anomalous vibrations detected beneath the Mariana Trench. What the crew found was unlike anything known to Earth science. Deep below the crushing pressure, they discovered a colossal geometric structure pulsing with rhythmic tones. Jalen soon realized the structure was transmitting a signal, not outward into space, but inward into the human mind. One by one, the crew began experiencing visions of unfamiliar worlds, memories that did not belong to them, and fragments of a civilization communicating through shared consciousness. Imagine a message buried so deep within the planet that hearing it unravels your sense of self. Some whispered that the film touched too closely on classified studies involving sound-induced cognition. A few theaters withdrew the film after audiences reported headaches and unease during the low-frequency scenes. Censors demanded several edits, removing moments where characters appeared to lose control under the influence of the signal. The production itself was grueling. The set designers built towering underwater structures from steel scaffolds coated with reflective paint. To mimic the crushing darkness of the deep, the lighting crew used only slow, pulsing blue lamps, creating an unsettling atmosphere on set. Actors complained of disorientation, and several scenes had to be reshot because performers lost their balance during the low rumble effects. Studio executives nearly shut down the film when cost overruns mounted. When Signal of the Deep released, it gained a small but devoted following, but mainstream critics called it slow, cryptic, and overly somber. It quickly vanished from theaters. Decades later, the film re-emerged through digital restoration and stunned modern audiences with its complex themes about identity connection and the unseen forces that shape human consciousness. Signal of the Deep endures as a whisper from the abyss, urging us to consider what ancient truths may still be waiting in the silence beneath the world. Number 4. Night Marchers of Andromeda, 1962. Night Marchers of Andromeda was dismissed as a pulpy space adventure when it first premiered. Critics believed it was simply a low-budget attempt to ride the wave of popular cosmic thrillers. Few realized it held one of the 60s most haunting depictions of intergalactic warfare and the psychological toll it imprinted on those who survived. The film centered on Captain Rihanna Vale, who led a squadron known as the Night Marchers elite pilots trained for silent infiltration missions across remote star systems. During a mission to the Andromeda frontier, Rihanna discovered evidence of an ancient dormant species awakening beneath the crust of a barren moon. These beings communicated through pulse waves that infected the consciousness of anyone exposed. Soon, Rihanna and her squadron began experiencing shared visions of unknown landscapes and impossible architectures. They realized the species was not awake, but dreaming, and their dreams were rewriting the minds of nearby travelers. Imagine a threat that never speaks, never moves, yet alters reality simply by dreaming. The concept unsettled early audiences. Rumors spread that the film portrayal of psychic warfare echoed classified military theories. Some regions banned screenings, claiming the story encouraged fear of space exploration. Posters depicting the dream-infected pilots were quietly removed from stations and theaters without official explanation. Production became a struggle against limitations. Sets were crafted from recycled materials shaped into twisted alien corridors, lit with vibrating magenta lights to represent psychic distortion. Actors trained to move with unnatural slowness, as if pulled by invisible tides. Many crew members reported vivid dreams during filming fueling. Speculation that the movie themes affected those who worked on it. Studio executives grew nervous and trimmed several scenes they believed were too disturbing. Upon release, Night Marchers of Andromeda found little support. Critics called it confusing, bleak, and overly artistic. It disappeared from circulation and for decades remained a lost curiosity. Eventually, archivists uncovered a surviving print and screened it for a new generation who praised its visionary approach to cosmic horror and memory manipulation. Night Marchers of Andromeda stands as a reminder that the universe may be filled with minds far older and stranger than our own, and that even their dreams can reshape us. Number 3. The Hollow Star Prophecy, 1967. The Hollow Star Prophecy entered the decade as a mysterious, independent release that critics barely acknowledged. Most reviewers dismissed it as an obscure metaphysical experiment, yet those who experienced it discovered a story woven from dread beauty and cosmic philosophy. The film followed Mira Solon, a stargazer who lived on the outskirts of a desert observatory. One night, while charting stellar anomalies, she recorded something extraordinary. A hollow star drifting across the sky, emitting pulses of light that matched human brainwave patterns. From that moment, Mira visions began. She saw fragments of futures not yet lived, worlds collapsing under unknown forces, and glimpses of herself speaking with beings made of starlight. She realized the hollow star was not a celestial body, but a message carrier, transmitting a prophecy across time. The message warned of a cosmic alignment that would erase entire timelines if left unheeded. Imagine a film in the 60s daring to suggest the universe itself was trying to warn humanity. That idea troubled several advisory boards. Rumors spread that the film original ending, which depicted Earth vanishing in a flash of white light, was removed after complaints from psychological health committees. Early promotional reels featuring the hollow star pulsating with brainwave signals mysteriously disappeared from studio archives. The production suffered from constant turmoil. To create the hollow star effect, the team built a rotating sphere coated in reflective powder, suspended by invisible wires in a pitch-black room. Heat from the lamps caused the powder to ignite during early tests, forcing the crew to rebuild the sphere repeatedly. Mira dream sequences were filmed underwater, with light beams refracting across her face, giving the illusion of starlit visions. Actors reported feeling disoriented during these scenes. When released, the Hollow Star Prophecy failed to attract audiences. Critics called it puzzling, dark, and too philosophical. But decades later, it resurfaced at a cosmic cinema retrospective and quickly gained a cult following. Viewers praised its haunting exploration of fate consciousness and the terrifying idea that destiny may be written in the stars long before we choose our path. Its legacy whispers a quiet warning. Sometimes the universe speaks, but we refuse to listen. Number 2. Chronicles of the Embergate, 1964. Chronicles of the Embergate emerged from a small studio known for taking bold, creative risks. Critics predicted it would flop, and they were correct at first. The film was too strange, too atmospheric, and too daring for mainstream audiences. Yet within its frames lived one of the most visionary sci-fi stories of the 60s. It followed Soren Hale, a linguist who uncovered an ancient ruin hidden beneath a volcanic island. At the center of the ruins, he discovered the Embergate, a circular construct glowing with inner fire. Soren learned that the Embergate was a dimensional threshold that responded only to spoken resonance. By vocalizing ancient tones, he opened gateways to parallel worlds, each shaped by different choices made throughout human history. Some worlds thrived in peace, while others collapsed into desolation. But each crossing left Soren marked with flickering embers that spread across his skin like living constellations. Imagine stepping through a doorway and witnessing a world where one different decision altered the course of civilization. That powerful idea drew curiosity, but also concern. Some whispered that the film metaphors resembled classified research into harmonic resonance. Several regional ratings boards demanded edits after early viewers reported unsettling sensations during the tonal sequences. Promotional material depicting Soren Ember-marked face was quietly removed from transit stations. Behind the scenes, the film was a trial of endurance. The Embergate was built from layered rings of glass and heated coils, creating shifting patterns of orange and gold. During filming, the coils overheated and shattered several panels, causing delays and minor injuries. Soren journeys through alternate worlds required elaborate sets built from salvaged props rearranged repeatedly to represent diverging timelines. Tension among the crew grew as production stretched far beyond the budget. Upon release, audiences found the film confusing and overly symbolic. It quickly vanished from theaters. But later, scholars praised its audacity and emotional weight, calling it a forgotten masterpiece about destiny, consequence, and the fragile potential of every choice. Chronicles of the Embergate remains a glowing reminder that every decision, no matter how small, opens a world we may never fully understand. Number 1. Children of the Silent Nova. 1961. Children of the Silent Nova debuted during a crowded year of science fiction releases and was overshadowed instantly. Critics dismissed it as a slow, cerebral meditation on cosmic tragedy. Yet the film revealed one of the most profound narratives of the 60s. It followed twin siblings Leora and Keon, who lived on a remote observatory station orbiting a dying star. When the star collapsed into a silent nova, a rare cosmic event that emitted no sound, the twins witnessed something extraordinary. Instead of destruction, the nova released waves of luminous particles that encoded memories of long-dead civilizations. The twins discovered they could interpret these memory waves almost like hearing ghostly voices from the past. Visions of ancient cities, war-torn empires, and moments of joy flooded their minds. But as the waves continued, the twins began to lose their own memories, replaced by the echoes of other lives. They realized the nova was not just dying, it was consuming identity itself. Imagine a star so ancient it carried the final memories of forgotten species. That concept unsettled early audiences. Rumors circulated that scientific consultants warned the studio about the psychological effects of depicting memory loss in such vivid detail. Some regions restricted screenings, claiming the film was too bleak for younger viewers. Several scenes showing the twins drifting through particle clouds were removed after test audiences reported overwhelming emotional reactions. Production was equally intense. The crew built vast illuminated chambers using thousands of handmade light particles suspended on thin rods, creating fluid waves of color. The heat generated by the lights caused constant shutdowns, and actors performed under extreme conditions. Leora and Keon memory loss sequences were filmed with layered exposures, giving the illusion that faces dissolved into drifting stars. Many scenes were reshot repeatedly due to technical failures. Upon release, Children of the Silent Nova struggled to find an audience. Critics called it mournful, slow, and overly poetic. But years later, historians revisited the film and praised its ambition, declaring it a lost masterpiece of emotional cosmic storytelling. Children of the Silent Nova endures as a reflection of humanity, longing to understand its place in a universe filled with silent echoes of those who came before. These forgotten visions from the 60s remind us that bold ideas do not vanish. They simply wait for the world to catch up. Each film held warnings, hopes, and wonders that critics overlooked, yet their messages still burn across time. Which of these lost gems spoke to you the most? Share your thoughts, like this video, and subscribe so the hidden past of cinema can rise again.